Nothing.
Oh, Doctor, I'm sorry.
No. Be of good cheer. If science teaches us anything, it teaches us to accept our failures as well as our successes with quiet dignity and grace. Son of a bitch bastard, I'll get you for this! What did you do to me? What did you do to me?
Doctor, stop it! You kill him!
I don't want to live! I do not want to live!
Quiet dignity and grace.
Oh, Mama!
What a beautiful day! Oh, ho, 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 ho! Oh dear! I got the triggers in. A little bit different today, and I would like to talk about a graceful flow. My name is Chris Quinlan. Welcome to Melbourne Musos Live. Oh, wonderful. It's a beautiful day out there. I better walk the pooch later on. Oh, he's over there asleep. He's not barking, which is nice for a change. There you go. As I said, my name's Chris Quinlan. Welcome to Melbourne Musos Live. I said graceful flow. And what that is taking everything that you're learning on whatever instrument you are playing and trying to make it a graceful flow through your scales and rudiments and all sorts of business there. Now, for tonight's purpose, I'm just going to talk about a few different things. I can talk about rudiments, but in a different way, okay? And what happens is that we could start with the humble single-stroke roll. I'll get to the patches in a minute. Now that could be anything, depends on the frame you put it in. But in the most basic of ways, with a drum, you can tap a drum three ways. And for this I'll use a stick just for a second. You can have a single tap, a double tap, and a press. We saw the press on beloved Anzac Day, there you go. And what happens is that when you're actually just doing something like double, bringing the hi-hat for colour. I love my hi-hat. There you go. So that's what goes on there. And you can do lots of little things, you see. And then there's the nuance of any kind of rudiment that you'd like to do, if I'm going to talk about rudiments for a second. And what happens then is that you can split your rudiments. And then what goes on then is you start talking about something that I keep coming back to, is the vertical and the horizontal. And what that is when you're trying to create a flow around your respective instrument, graceful flow, there you go, or trying to be. What you actually have is a way of moving to different, in this case drums, or different frets, different movements, positions, piano, all sorts of things, you know. And what happens is that as much as you have an accent, which is a note louder than others, go the extra length of finding out how much louder. If you've got volume 1 to 10, what is it going to be? You know, that kind of thing. So if you're going to do accents, I've said before, I work in thirds, so if my normal notes are about 3, I'd make my accent about 9, but if it's even lighter, 2, 6, 1, then it'd be 3, it could be a pulse. Now, you see Buddy Rich and all sorts of different people do this a lot. Roll out the barrel. Pivot points. If you take your implement, whether it be a stick, a mallet, a brush, whatever, and put the heel of the sticks, you get your contact point, so maybe you've got your snare drum there, your floor tom here, take the contact point where you're going to hit the drum, put the heel of the stick together, that's where your wrist will be, and then turn it on and off like a tap, like that, so Paradiddle diddle. Adjust your pivot point. So instead of going like that, you can go there you go. You see, you get lots of things like that. And then what happens is that you can start to think in terms of angles. So you could have a star, one place, line, I feel like watching Benny Hill now. Triangle. Now that gives you the inference of 3. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. There's 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Pivot point, pivot point. Polymetrics. And there's your pulse, a flow into it. If I'm successful on a good day. Target practice. Hui! There it is. And then what happens then is that you're creating pieces of music, sort of thing. When I do my continuum business, I do this show. This is on a Friday. Leave everything up, leave the patches, leave everything where it is. And then after spending a bit of time at Doggy Park and Doggy Beach with the pooch over there, and every other little thing that I might be doing, on the Sunday I usually have a little bit of more of a performance-based play for the music that hopefully is some kind of soundtrack for the second main show, Impromptu TV, which was born out of lockdowns. And there you go, the second show. So what happens is that when I'm doing things like that, I try to create that flow between the two. There's a continuity between what I'm doing right now, explaining it, and then what I do on Sunday, more performing it. But if it's a solo, I failed. I want it more like a soundtrack. So there's nothing for me to do. I love it. You can hear the money, hopefully. Now what I'm doing here of the triggers, there's a threshold. Look, I play very lightly. Nothing, just the tom. Popping. Now. Now, that looks easy. But you've got to, there's a kind of a, when I talk about this, right, if I do it I'll go here, seeing I'll stick to it. So if I'm doing this, and I go very lightly, call that 1. I get a bit louder. 2, 3, at some point, the threshold, it'll kick in. There it is. Then I grade that. It might be 4. Come on. Now they're called flat flams. You do them all the time when you're doing any kind of build. That kind of business. Now what goes on then is that you start to work your tones, you see. That's why I've got the piccolos over here, you see. So that becomes a bit of target practice, and then there's the flow of this. So what we're talking about is, once again, the vertical, up and down, up and down, up and down, and then you've got the horizontal, and then when you place your cymbals, okay, I see it like target practice, just like, handball practice, sort of thing. Flow. It can happen anywhere. I just happen to be talking about it on a show where there's Doris the big ass drum kit in front of me. But what I'm trying to do is talk about the levels of coordination, resolution points, if I'm doing that. Something like that. I'm sort of keeping that there, but the in-betweens create the colour and the idea, you see. And then you go through those levels of coordination, that kind of thing. So when you're doing rudiments, there's levels of rudiments, you see. So let's take the humble paradiddle. And what happens is you just start off with right, left, left, left. And that's why it's called a paradiddle. Oh, the history of it is that it is a marching rudiment all the way back. There's a bit of a loose history about the Swiss army around about 800 AD, and right to left, right, left, paradiddle, marching. And then when you first learn it, if you can say it, you can play it. Now, the flow of that is mnemonics, creating the mnemonic kind of thing where it's by word. If you can say it, you can play it. So you've got that. It starts out, you get the kidlets, and it's like, this is a single stroke roll, that's a double stroke roll, this is a paradiddle, and they look at you and go, what? A what? And I go, say it, you can play it. Paradiddle, paradiddle, paradiddle. That's it. Keep going. Paradiddle, paradiddle, that kind of thing. But I want to rock. Okay, that is rock. It's called Immigrant Song by Led Zeppelin, 1971. It's also to get smart. Da 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 da. right, left, right, left, left, right, left, right, right, left, right, left, left. Then, over a period of time, it starts to become a little bit natural. Put it on the snare drum. Look at the accent. Right, left, right, left, right, left, right, left, right, left. Then, if you're going right, left, right, right, left, right, left, left, right, left, right, left, right, left, left, sure, your tongue will fall out, but you're doing a good job. There you go. And what happens is that then you start thinking in terms of groupings.
Nice grouping.
And young Frankenstein. So what happens is that it starts just to become one group. Instead of these 8 disparate notes, you all of a sudden have a right side, left side. So you start just thinking like right, left, right, left, right, left, right, left, right, left. Add a bass drum. Right, left, right, left, right, left, right, left, right, left. Add a cymbal. Right, left, right, left, right, left, right, left. So what happens, if I keep doing that, then we put numbers to them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. They're semi-quavers when we do it like that. How about if I go 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. What happens then? They become dozen uplets. That's what I call it. And because what you're doing is you're playing triplets, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and then you paradiddle them, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and there you have it, you see. So it's levels of a rudiment, levels of a paradiddle in this case. Now with your levels of coordination, and then you start using the angles like I said before, I better get a bit of a wriggle on. Anyway, there you go. But what happens with all these kinds of things? You split them. One of the first things, when you're doing any kind of rudiment, and if I stick with the humble paradiddle just for a second, one of the first things I try and do with my students is that, of course, you're going to, make the practice pad your best friend, and then you work your paradiddles up. So, and the first thing I try to get everyone to do is just to move to a different surface, whether it be a cymbal or a tom, whatever it might be. And the very first thing that happens is it's like, I think I've got it now, Chris. Yep. And it's the sound. And I often say, don't listen to yourself just for a second. I know that sounds a bit counterproductive to the subject of tonight. But what goes on is you get that kind of... Once you've got it, move it around. Maybe just the right hand only. I hope you did it at home. There you go. So that's what goes on. Now, when you're actually layering rudiments, like you start getting into the flabs, okay, so you start... Now I could be doing a flam tap. Split it. Oh, what a go. And some of the little tricks you can do, it's not a trick, it's just a technique, is that you can move between drums when it's... See, when you've got the left hand, in this case, coming up. Like, right, left. Just bringing it out a little bit. And then when you see me do sort of kind of the split kind of deals when I'm doing the piccolos. This is my classical side here. I've explained it many times. But what happens is when I start doing these things with the triggers, flams. You see, I'm just splitting them. You see, that's what goes on. Now, that starts to become what Johann Sebastian Bach would talk about is contrapuntal lines, counterpoint, and the species, the species. Dynamics 1 to 10. Hook. And there you go, you start working it up. Where can I use this kind of business? Okay, so when you're talking about Terry Bozzio and stuff like that with his humongous kit, he's trying to prove a point. He treats his humongous drum kit like a piano, and he'll play it. So when I met him and when Alan Zavod, R.I.P., we went and interviewed him. Oh, what a wonderful day. That was a real break for, they were both Zappa veterans, but they hadn't met before. And they just got into this conversation. I just sat there with the camera. It's one of my most favourite shows of all time. And he would talk about, he was so free and easy with, this is how I do it. I've got it tuned to A mixolydian is how he tuned it at that time. And guess what? That's why I'm using A mixolydian now, the A mixolydian mode, in a little bit of a tip of the hat. And then what happens is that what he started to do was exactly that. He would start to talk about what I did a little while ago now, say doing 3. Five here. And therein lays all your fancy progressive rock. I'm starting to think King Crimson. Oh, Robert Fripp and Adrian Belew. And some of the pieces they did where Robert Fripp would be playing just in 4/4 semiquavers, let's say. So it's 1 eana, 2 eana, 3 eana, 4 eana, 1 eana, 2 eana, 3 eana, 4 eana. And Adrian Belew on the things like the Discipline album and all that back in the day. And all that, they're doing a tour now, sort of thing. They're covering themselves without Robert Fripp. But anyway, moving right along. And Adrian Belew would do 15, so it'd be 1 back. Now that goes to Steve Reich and his classical percussion, different trains and all that sort of business. And he gets the violins to do a paradiddle. I'm a bit paradiddle crazy today. Anyway, so what goes on is that when you're doing that sort of counterpoint kind of business, you're taking all the basic rudiments that you grow up with and that you must do, and you create your flow. And then what happens is you split them. And then when you split them, the sound is going to muck you up a little bit at first. That's no problem at all. And then you get your coordination. Even last episode, sort of thing. I did Rolling Shuffles last episode, the one before. Coordinational nightmare. And so it sounds like it's crazy hard, but it's just a flam tap in 2 different spots. But I move it. That's probably what goes on hard. Right? There you go. I'll wrap the show up now. Hey, here we are. So, my name is Chris Quinlan. This is Melbourne Musos live, or at least live here. Hopefully in 1 take. And then what happens is that I'm talking about a graceful flow in different ways. I talked about rudiments, resolution points. I did levels of a paradiddle, levels of coordination a little bit, angles. Okay, you can have a star, you can have a line, you can have a triangle, you can have a square even. There you go. Pivot points I rabbited on about, and tuning takes you there as well. You know, learn to tune your drum kit. Hopefully this one's, Doris is still in tune. And then when I do the triggers, there's the sound of the drum, which hopefully gives you some kind of note. And then depending on the scale that I'm using, and in this case A mixolydian, what's actually going on is that there's the triggered note and then there's the drum. So whether it's a third or a sixth or a fifth, get to know it. Even if you're just playing drums, do a little second instrument, you know, plink on the piano, get a cheap guitar, you know, that kind of thing. That's how I did it. And there it is. So I'm going to... Hey, I love yous all. Hey, oh, I'm out of here now for a nice glass of...
Nice grouping.